and that everyone is accounted for. As I thought about that, my mind went back to when I was a child growing up, and I have 10 brothers and sisters, 10 all of us, inclusive together. And my parents couldn't find a place to live because with so many people, and they had limitations on how many people, how many children you could have in a rental property. And so we lived for a period of time in the basement of some friends' home. And eventually my dad was a forklift operator, so he saved, and my mom saved. We were able to get our first home. And my mom started buying up properties and investing in them, fixing them up and renting them out to people, because she wanted to make sure that she could provide the opportunities for us that she was not able to have. And so I was able to go to college, to Illinois State University, brought me to Bloomington Normal, where I was able to go to school, get my degree in criminal justice. And all during that time, I still worked, and I volunteered at the Boys and Girls Club and other areas to help make a difference. So with all that being said, after I got my degree, I started working for the Illinois Department of Correctional and Criminal Justice, where I worked as a counselor, a casework supervisor, and then I was promoted to assistant superintendent for the entire state, where I managed $1 million budgets. I implemented program, wrote procedure, policy, and supervised different departments. So all that experience helped make me a viable candidate to be on to serve the people within this community. I served on the Bloomington Human Relations for 12 years, and I also was one of the original founders of the 99 Town, which was for inclusiveness for all people. And currently I'm on the board for Mid-Illini Credit Union, and I'm the second vice president for the NAACP. But I say all of that to say that, yes, I'm very qualified, but what's most important to me is how much I genuinely care about people. And this COVID-19 pandemic that has hit our community and our nation, it has impacted all of us. And I want to make sure we afford support and relief to families and to businesses, and to make more opportunity available to local businesses, to make sure we buy local and invest in our community, to engage people to be involved in that process, to help make a difference, to look outside the box of how maybe this is how we've always done it, to ask, does it have to be done that way? Can we be innovative? Can we help to raise Bloomington Normal to a higher level, to be even better? Yes, it's a great community, but I'm sure we all can say there are areas that we can improve in as we look at our schools, as we look at our infrastructure, as we look at economic development, public safety. These are areas that I know we'll be talking about later on this evening, and I'm looking forward to just being able to serve you. I give myself to you, to the community, Bloomington City Council, Ward 3. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Willie. We're now going to hear from Sheila Motney, her candidate for Ward 3. Sheila?
Hi. Hello, everybody. I sure wish we could be together in person. I really prefer that, but here we are here tonight doing the best we can over Zoom. I'm Sheila Motney. For those of you who haven't met, I'll share a little bit about my background, why I'm running, things that I care about, and what I hope to do in terms of bringing value to Bloomington's residents in the community and regional area as a whole. I actually grew up in rural Arkansas, outside of a town called Paragould that I'm guessing most of you have never been to. My son asked me once, Mom, how did you get out? And I answered him, you know, education. It's the socioeconomic levelizer for society and the opportunities that we have here in this great country we live in. My dad had a 5th grade education and is a World War II veteran. My mother bought her first house in Bloomington in the year 1999, and sadly she passed away 9 months later, actually on Rockingham and Normal, excuse me, but a duplex that she was incredibly proud to own. So I actually left high school early to go to school down in Texas. It was one of 2 schools that were within a day's drive where I could start school after 11th grade. And that's what took me to Denton, Texas, for those who've read my biography on the internet at motneyforbloomington.com. My degree program for undergrad was English composition. And why English composition? Because that was the quickest degree I could complete while working full-time, paying my way through school. So mathematically, that's what I chose. And I had an incredible blessing to end up at State Farm, where I had an older sister who was already working there. And she said, Sheila, we have jobs called underwriter. It's not really writing, but they hire English majors and music majors, and it's a great company. That's how I ended up at State Farm. Here I am 36 years later. I've relocated 7 times with State Farm. I had the opportunity along the way to complete a master's program in government at Harvard while I was working for State Farm in Framingham, Massachusetts. And I got into school there in a bit of a backdoor way through open enrollment programs as a part of a community outreach. And then I was fortunate enough to have been sponsored by a Kennedy School of Government professor who sponsored me to enter a degree program. And that's how I was able to obtain that credential. I'm a lifelong learner, and I bring that to the council. I've had experience in all the communities in 8 states that I've worked in serving the community through volunteerism in both the public and private sectors for different organizations, not-for-profits, and so forth. I currently serve the Bloomington Planning Commission as a commissioner in that group. I'm also involved on a board of an organization called the Shingo Institute, which is a global not-for-profit in the field of continuous improvement and organizational excellence. I bring that up as one experience to highlight because I think life's journey is really one of continuous improvement. And I think that's true for communities as well. So as I pivot from my background into what I want to accomplish for this community, Bloomington has an amazing amount of strengths. It has attributes that have allowed it to continue to thrive despite some of the challenges that we're facing around us in Illinois. I look forward to being a part of leveraging those strengths, building upon them to create a community that our residents will enthusiastically recommend as a great place to live, work, learn, and play. And when I think about what that means, in this time, it is more important than ever that we appeal to our residents, our local businesses, and attracting future businesses and residents by having a community that our residents enthusiastically believe in. Because we're entering a time when location-based employment is ceasing to be the case. We're evolving past where many jobs can be completed from anywhere. In terms of just priorities, I think we all have a lot in common there. We'd all like to see this community's infrastructure improved. We want a community that's safe. We'd like to see our taxes certainly not go up anymore and get more value for the spend that we have. And in addition, just focusing on that culture and making sure that we focus on common goals, bringing this community together with unity to accomplish things that are in alignment with what our constituents value and at a price that we can afford to pay.
All right, thank you very much, Sheila. We're going to move on to Ward number 5, and tonight we have Nick Becker, one of the 2 candidates for Ward 5. So thank you, Nick. Please share what's on your heart about serving.
Thanks, Connie. I really appreciate you inviting us here tonight to share, and I'm excited to talk about this, and I'm going to do it a little bit different than I've done in the past. And I'm going to take the lead maybe a little bit from my opponent. Is he said in a recent discussion, he said, you know, one thing that's really important is being able to understand what other people in the community need. And so I'm going to approach this from the perspective of the different lenses that I've learned to look through the experience that I've had in my life. And I'll start with, you know, growing up. Well, I'll start with my wife for a second. We've been married for 30 years, and everything that I can achieve is because of her. She's an amazing, amazing support. So I thank her for that. But one of the ways that I started to learn in different lenses is I grew up very blue collar, a union home, very much focused on you just worked as hard as you could physically until you dropped, and that was what you had to do to make it. My wife grew up very white collar. Her dad's a PhD chemist and, very, very supportive. They had extra time to do things, very different. And we learned when we came together that those different backgrounds were just that different. Neither was right, neither was wrong. It gave us a different lens to look through. And I've been blessed enough that as I've continued through things, I've gotten a lot more lenses that I feel comfortable with. From a personal standpoint, I've taught at the undergraduate, graduate, and professional levels. I have that lens. I've worked through many volunteer opportunities from as young as 12 years old as a Boy Scout and working my way through volunteering and serving up to being an Eagle Scout and a Scout leader. I've worked through coaching and dealing with all the parents and all the children that I've worked with in multiple states and multiple communities. I've led retreats, so I've gotten together with men from all different backgrounds to try and work and grow their faith and to just try and improve on each other. I've led small groups, I've led youth groups. So I've been able to interact with so many different people that I feel like I really bring the ability to see through their lenses in that way. As a dad, I'm a father of 7, right? I've had lots of different experiences, as you can imagine, in my household. I've had kids that I didn't think were going to come home from the hospital. I've had to deal with that. In our household, we actually had 11 living with us for a while, similar to Willie. When my parents lived with us and we were dealing with elder care, right? I've had the situation where at one point I was laid off. I actually chose to be laid off to allow some other people's jobs to remain, but then I didn't have an income to support my family. So I've had to deal with that perspective as well. If I go into the business world, I've run my own business. I can understand the small business owners in Bloomington and how tough it has been for them lately. In my current career, I'm the vice president of worldwide professional services for a computer hardware firm. I've had the ability to deal with multinational, multicultural, multi-department and dimension type projects for over 30 years. So I feel like I can see the business perspective as well. I've had the chance to deal with budgets in a similar size to Bloomington and complexity to Bloomington. I feel like I can see that too. So taking the words from my opponent again, we need experienced leaders that have the ability to see things through others' lenses. And I believe I've been lucky enough to see through many, many lenses in the course of my life. And stepping in real quickly to the specific priorities of what I want to focus on, you'll see me focus more on economic development as a priority, because I believe the best thing we can do is to give people opportunities to step up and grow. In my career, I've had a chance to hire many, many people. And when you see that person that needs a job, who gets a job for the first time, and it's a job that can support them and their family, that is the most rewarding thing in the world for that person and also the person hiring them. So I really believe in economic development from that perspective, as well as the ability to bring businesses in, create a foundation for our community, create foundations for all the citizens. I believe we have to focus there. And finally, the standard not fun stuff, right? The infrastructure and the public safety are things I think that we all care about. I believe we have to focus on these things to maintain that foundational stability in our community. And especially we need to focus on supporting our first responders and our police and our firemen. We have to do that to allow our community to be stable and safe to support all the other objectives.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick. Now we're going to move to ward number 9. I do have 2 names in the little thing to see who's going to speak first here between Tom and Jim. And our first will be Jim. Jim Fruin will come up first to the mic, and then Tom will have the second. And then we're going to do it the other way, where it'll be Tom and the Jim at the end. So forgive me if I never make my notes there. All right. Anyway, Jim, would you please come to the mic and share about your desire to serve on the Bloomington City Council?
Sure. And Connie, you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you fine,
Okay.
Jim.
Very good. Thanks for organizing this tonight. So a quick snapshot of who I am and where I've been. I'm a lifelong resident of Bloomington Normal, educated in the parochial schools, graduated from Central Catholic and Illinois State. Have lived in several different communities, neighborhoods in the community. So that's 69 years of history, revealing my age already. My wife and I have been married 47 years. We have 3 grown children. I had a 37-year career at State Farm in healthcare and HR. My wife had a 35-year career at Country Mutual. Many of her years, she worked a night shift. And so I had what I refer to as a Mr. Mom duties at night, and had a good opportunity to help raise my 3 sons and get involved in their activities. Was very involved in the school boards, academic, sports, whatever they were doing over those years. I guess that continued on to the University of Iowa, where the 3 sons went to school, and I was involved with Parents Association over there. So education has been a very big part of my life, supporting my kids and supporting my community. And obviously I've been involved with my alma mater at Illinois State as well. So that's a little bit about the family. As far as the healthcare goes, because of my State Farm interest, I've been involved with volunteer duties at OSF St. Joseph in the emergency room. I've been involved with Carl Hospital, front desk and hospice work. And I've been involved with the community healthcare clinic. That's on the healthcare side. On the government side, I would just say that I remember the year was 1988. I'm 37 years old. And I wrote then Jesse Smart, who I did not know, but that was the beginning of my long government career. So I first served 6 years from 89 to 95 on the Bloomington Planning Commission. I served, do I have that right? From 95 to 03. I served 8 years as an alderman in Ward 3. Then in 07, I served as an alderman in Ward 9 from 07 to 17. So 8 years and 10 years, 18 years total. During that time, I also would have been involved with Bloomington Normal Area Visitors and Convention Bureau. Would have been involved in the Economic Development Council and several other responsibilities where the city of Bloomington had a rep on some community activities. Let's see. Currently, I'm on the Public Building Commission, and I'm on the McLean County Regional Planning Commission. Those were appointments from the McLean County Board. So that's my past government experience. Did I ever think I'd be running for Ward 9 again? I don't know. Probably last fall when Kim Bray decided that she would not run again because she was retiring and moving out of the area. Several people asked me to run, and I think they saw the void in experience that happened 2 years ago, and they saw the current void of the several incumbents we have now that are not going to run again. So we have a real experience drain that's going to occur on May 1. So that's the reason others encouraged me, and I jumped in to run for Ward 9. I'm a non-traditional candidate. There's no doubt about that. I've never asked for money. I've never received money. I don't do yard signs. I don't have a campaign committee. Very non-traditional. But I run on public service, and that's what I see the position as. I think what I can bring to the council, at this time of year, we're talking about ward activities and ward interest and ward needs. But bottom line, when we get seated on May 1, we're all there together, and we need to be cohesive. We need to do what's best for the entire community. And the issues are all the same. We've all talked about them: infrastructure and finances and public safety and public works. They're all the same issues. We're all dedicated to make this a better community. And I do want to jump back in and with my experience, and with my record as a team player, to bring that cohesiveness and that knowledge to the entire city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, very much. And now we're going to move to our last candidate's introduction time, and that would be with Tom Crumpler. Please come to the mic, Tom.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Connie. Well, good evening. I want to thank Connie and McLean County Republicans for sponsoring tonight's debate. My name is Tom Crumpler, and I'm running for Bloomington City Council in Ward 9. I'd like to say a little bit how I got into the race, some of my qualifications, things that matter to me in the time that I have in this introduction. You know, last fall, Kim Bray came to me and said that she would not be seeking a second term. She urged me to run because she knew I was well suited for this job. I care about this city and the people in it. I work hard and I have integrity. I treat others with respect, even if we disagree, and I think that's so important on the council now. But you know what's most important to me is hearing from voters. So I've knocked on doors, held a virtual town hall, made almost 2,000 phone calls in the 7 precincts across our ward. I've sent personal letters, texts, and I've done all this because I wanted to connect with voters to understand what they cared about, what their concerns and hopes were for our city. And I feel like I'm working hard, you know, to earn your vote. And I guess I want to talk about some of the primary reasons I'm running. I think there are 4. First, I really want to improve core services, the dependable core services that we have in our city, public safety, infrastructure, like some of the other candidates have spoken this evening. You know, second, I'm running because I really want to be a good steward of tax dollars. I want fiscal responsibility. I also want opportunities for the town of Normal and the city of Bloomington to collaborate when that's financially appropriate. Third, I'm running because I think voters today expect accountability from city leaders. I am the kind of person who will be absolutely forthright and transparent on all issues when I'm on city council. And finally, I'm running because I believe voters today expect their alderman to be accessible, to respond to them when they reach out to him or her. You know, families are busy. People communicate a lot of different ways these days. They reach out on Facebook, they participate in Zoom meetings, virtual town halls, and I have these tools in place and the skills to use them, I think. Personally, I'm collaborative and team focused. I'm good at developing partnerships. I excel at that. When I was at ISU, I developed partnerships with school districts, collaborated with principals, parents, teachers, other educators. I build consensus. I worked in teams in District 87, Unit 5, Peoria, Pekin, other districts throughout the Central Illinois region. I made a difference with teachers and students in those districts, and I'm proud of that. I'm a person who values actionable solutions. It's easy to talk, but I want things to get done. And when I'm on the city council, I'll work with the mayor, the new mayor, city manager, and other city leaders to achieve those goals. I also recognize and respect not only the expertise of city leaders, but the expertise of those who are making Bloomington work on a daily level. So I want to reach out and listen to those folks too, so that I am informed and be able to make decisions based on input from all stakeholders. You know, my own background is of shared governance. I think we are a stronger community with more voices providing input. As I have worked to connect with with individuals' expertise in Ward 9, I'll also work to connect with expertise of city and community leaders. A couple of priorities for me. You know, here in Ward 9, we've known for some time that we want reliable core services, public safety, regular brush pickup, and all those kinds of good things that others have we'll talk about this evening too. But one of the things that really I've heard a lot about is here in Ward 9, the response times for our fire department are below the 6-minute national standard. You know, our fire department is wonderful. They've done all they can do with staffing and made other changes, and they've made a lot of improvements. Still, as an alderman, I will work with our fire department to prioritize solutions to reduce response times in our ward. I also think, as an alderman, it's important to think on a citywide level. For example, we have a wonderful downtown task force report that was written in 2019 that prioritizes things like more green space, walkability. When I've talked to voters out here, people want a vibrant downtown. They care about downtown Bloomington. And I want that to be my priority as an alderman to the extent that it's fiscally responsible. And so let me finish by saying my promise to voters, I will faithfully represent Ward 9, yet think beyond Ward 9 and see what's best for the entire city. And I will provide new leadership for the city council. And I'm asking for your vote on or before April 6th. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to let our moderator, Bruce, to go ahead and take a look at the questions that people have begun to submit. It's not too late. You can keep, as you hear these conversations and these answers take place, go ahead and type in a question in the Q&A. We'll do our best to get to them all. So I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Bruce.
Okay, we have a question in for each candidate to answer. Who does each candidate support for mayor and why?
Okay, so we'll just take it, we'll kind of do a reverse order of what we did going into this. Let's start back. Well, let's put it this way. This is what I've discovered maybe is a fair way to do this. When we have a question that's for all of the candidates, you have the feature of being able to raise your hand, panelists, on your board. So if you're ready to answer that question, you can raise your hand and then I'll know. I can easily find you. Maybe I will start with looking for the raised hands, or you can just go ahead and speak up, I guess. But any raised hands on that question?
Connie, I'll give it a try.
Okay, Jim, go ahead.
Sure. I learned long ago to be political on this one. I have never endorsed fellow council members and I've never endorsed fellow mayors. As a quick reminder, I served on the city council with Judy Markowitz and we sat side by side. At that time, the mayor was Jesse Smart. And you remember that Judy challenged Jesse in a mayoral race, but it is just not good practice here. I've got one opinion between all of us here, but it's just not good practice to endorse one over the other. You don't know who you're going to be working with. And I've seen people that have done that, and it's been very damaging in relationships when you go forward, when you don't know who you're going to be working with. I will say this with Maboka, he and I served on the council for probably 2 terms, but I have found him to be a very team-oriented player. And so I'm glad he's continuing to run. I'm glad that Mike is in the race. He seems to have a lot of energy and a lot of business background. So I'm staying neutral on that, but I went first so everybody else can go from there.
Well, I'm going to ask Willie to go ahead and speak up. She's got her hand up. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm glad you asked that question, and I'm glad Jim went first because he gave the politically correct answer, and that is that each one brings a variety of skills to the table. But I can say I've worked with Maboka on several projects, and I do see him to be a team player. But one thing that I have during this race gotten to know Jackie Gunnarsson, and that's because I'm a part of the People First Coalition, and she is a part of that coalition. And I have had the opportunity to see her passion and her experience from working as a business owner and from different organizations within the community, and her knowledge base on how to implement programs and procedures, and just her sense of knowledge about people and caring for the everyday working people. People First Coalition, the whole concept is people first, putting people first. So I would vote for Jackie Gunnarsson.
Okay, thank you, Willie. Tom, would you have your hand up now, please?
Yes, thank you. Actually, I agree with Jim. you know, the city council offices are nonpartisan, and there's a possibility that when we're elected, we would end up working with any of the three mayoral candidates. I have certainly, I've watched the debates among the candidates, and I think each of them brings a somewhat different perspective to what's good for Bloomington. And I know I could work with any of the three of them that were elected, but I feel it's in the best interest of the city council races to not to endorse a particular mayoral candidate. So I cannot do that at this time, but thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Nick, your hand is up, sir. Please.
So I hate to be the broken record here, but we're all going to kind of agree with Jim a little bit. I do think that when you have good qualified candidates that you can work with, and that there's opinions across the ward. I know in my ward there's a very divided opinion. I believe I could work with both Invoca or Mike very well. I believe the two of them both have a level of experience that could benefit the city. And, you know, I don't have a preference between the two that I'm willing to share because of the comments Jim made. I really think it's good for us to maintain that working relationship. But I would like to encourage everyone, just really do your research on the candidate that meets your particular ideals and needs for the city, and do get out and vote. I think that's the most important thing we can say here.
Thank you, Nick. Sheila, your hand is raised, ma'am. Go ahead.
Hi. Yes, so I understand the prudence of Jim's thoughts, and I appreciate them very much. I have had the opportunity to visit at length with two of the three candidates, Maboka and Mike Strasa, and I find both of them to be eminently qualified and to have a passion for serving this community in a way that I believe will unify us and bring us forward responsibly from not only a business management perspective, but from an overall community perspective in terms of just keeping our community safe. I've not met Jackie, so I want to be fair there in saying that. I can only look at artifacts as it relates to, you know, maybe some of her points of view. We were each asked to consider signing a statement of candidacy, which provides our oath to serve on behalf of the government that we're a part of here in the United States. And I have not found that oath having been signed there. The other concern I have is just bringing up, and again, I want to be very fair, I haven't had the opportunity to talk to her to understand the context of the petition that's circulating around defunding the police in Bloomington and Normal by 50% by 2023. And so I'm not quite sure I understand what her support is there. I believe we do need to provide support from a public safety perspective that is holistic, but it also includes a commitment to our local first responders in the police and in our fire department from an EMS perspective.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Sheila. I remind all of those that are in attendance that Thursday night, we will have a mayor's candidate forum for Bloomington, and that will be an excellent time to tune in and ask questions and learn more about the candidates running for Bloomington mayor. I am going to ask if Bruce probably has another question for everyone.
I have another one right on top here. What items are appropriate to compete versus collaborate with Normal, and how do you communicate with your counterparts across Division Street? Let's start with Sheila and go backwards.
I think, you know, as a resident here in Bloomington, when I think about maybe going out for dinner, I don't think about crossing the boundary into Normal as something that delineates our community. I think the people who live here see this community as one expanded regional area, and I think we need to build on that. I think there are certainly opportunities to look beyond bidding against each other at ultimately the expense of the residents here in Bloomington Normal, and at the expense perhaps of existing businesses on either side of the line, so to speak. I think there's a tremendous opportunity for improved collaboration, for us to look at the city from the perspective of those who live here, who consume and work and are entertained and eat out and so forth in both communities. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity there for us to enhance collaboration. You asked when it wouldn't be appropriate. I think as a member of the government of Bloomington, we certainly have to remember that our primary duty is to the residents of our community. So that has to always be kept in mind as we make decisions along the way.
Thank you, Sheila. I think we're going to move. I saw Nick raised a hand. So Nick, I think you'd like to speak to the question.
Sure. Thank you very much. I agree with the majority of what Sheila said there, is that we are one community, and the vast majority of things that we will do will impact the whole community. So yes, we have to service, our constituents first. We have to keep that in mind. But if we go to make a decision for Bloomington that impacts Normal negatively, that will hurt Bloomington, and vice versa on the other council. If we don't look at the bigger picture of McLean County, it's going to hurt both of us. Especially if you think of economic development, we've seen situations where the cities have, bid against each other in a sense to move a business from one community to the other. That doesn't add jobs. That just shifts a little bit of tax revenue, and that's kind of like, I want to be selfish and garner that for me, where if we work together, we can create jobs in one community. Guess what? The people will live in both communities. They'll spend money in both communities. The more jobs we create, the better. So we need to make sure that the effort is building the whole community while, as Sheila said very well, serving our constituents. And I do think that, as far as how we do that, we need to be able to be very communicative and interactive with the members of the Normal Town Council and the county board. I think there should be regular communication back and forth. Hey, we're thinking about X. What do you think about it? I think it should be a very collaborative effort, and I think we should really work to support each other to better the whole community. And definitely, I've seen in the past, a little bit of I'm going to take my ball and go home and not play with you if I don't like what you're saying. We need to grow up, and we need to work together in all instances.
All right, thank you, Nick. I think Willie had her hand up. Willie, would you care to come weigh in?
Yes, I would agree with what much has been said. The collaboration between Bloomington and Normal is essential. That's why we refer to each other as the Twin City. So allowing that input from each other and sharing and networking. I would go as far as even to recommend that we would consider doing at least quarterly meetings where we would come together and share different ideas and network and learn from each other, the positives and the things that we feel that really we could learn from. I will use the example for, our Bloomington downtown. We know there are a lot of areas that we need to work on as far as to improve, to draw people and businesses to that area. Normal has done a nice job with their uptown, how they have beautified it and brought more businesses in. And so those type of collaboration could only help. And of course, healthy competition is always a good thing. So of course, our first priority is to the people in Bloomington. But again, the restaurants and the different business ventures and things that goes on between both of our cities, we're interconnected. And so we should use that to an advantage. And we should be able to communicate and negotiate and work together as a Twin City.
Thank you. Thank you. Tom raised his hand. So Tom, please, your thoughts.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I talked about collaboration between Bloomington and Normal in my opening statement, and I think it's an important thing for us to think about. For me, what I'm looking for is what I call, strong coordinated leadership that would be beneficial for both municipalities. And I think good leaders are good learners. And I think we have a lot to learn by working together. But I think in order to make that happen, we need community discussions on important issues, collaboration, like several of the other candidates have talked about. I think we want actionable timelines, clear fiscal priorities, and benchmarks so that we can assess the progress when we're trying to work on collaborative or cooperative projects. I really value cooperation of locally owned businesses and community leaders, and I think there's so much expertise in both of our, both in the town of Normal and the city of Bloomington, that we could draw on it and work on together. I also think in any collaboration, we need to communicate with stakeholders who expect their city leaders, to get things done and keep them informed about what we're doing and how we're progressing. A couple of examples that I've thought a lot about. I'm pretty excited about the Economic Development Council's Enterprise Zone initiative, where we would in some ways standardize a template for automatic development incentives for when new businesses come to town. I really like that idea because I think if we have a standardized process, it allows Bloomington and McLean County and the town of Normal to work together, so that everyone benefits. I think it levels the playing field. It helps, both business owners in both communities benefit. And I think as we go forward, it gives us the opportunity to hire, local workers, work with local labor unions and families, and we need, it benefits our larger community. I think another possible example, and this has been around for a while, is MetroNet. Bloomington pulled out of MetroNet some years ago. And it's been an ongoing conversation throughout, I guess, probably the last, maybe decade city council, and I know that what we want, is the most efficient services for when there's an emergency or someone needs support, and in trying to figure out if coming back into MetroNet is something that would be beneficial for Bloomington and Normal to work together is something I would love to have a conversation about. And like others, we represent, Bloomington obviously has a ward system, so we represent both our wards and the larger city of Bloomington. And I think while we have to make sure that we're representing the voters who put us in the place of a city council member, we don't want to miss opportunities for the two municipalities to collaborate. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Jim, I'm going to give you an opportunity if you'd like to speak to the issue of Normal and Bloomington and how they compete or collaborate.
Sure. I think we collaborate. That's a slam dunk. I got thinking about this a little bit, and we can't lose sight of the good progress we have made. I think we've got very good relationships between our city managers, very good relationships with our department heads. We do a lot of things well together, Connect Transit and many other things that sometimes we take for granted. But we have a very good relationship now, and I think we can grow on that. A couple ideas have already been referenced with regard to the 911 call system, an enterprise zone that we had up until 5 years ago when Bloomington decided to remove itself from that enterprise zone. We've talked about things in the past like a shared sales tax. We've talked about a principles of partnership. That was at the time that businesses were going across Division Street to the other community. So we have to be accountable, we have to be intentional, and we have to work together on all these things. The Chamber of Commerce is obviously helping, trying to bridge those things together. The EDC, we've all heard about the Bloomington Normal Advantage efforts. And I think it was Willie that mentioned, we have a perfect opportunity. It's one thing I tried to promote, but the 5th Friday, that happens 4 times a year, That's when Normal and Bloomington do not meet, but the 5th Friday of the month, that's quarterly, is a great opportunity to get the two councils together and talk about whatever the issue is of the day or what the issues are going to be for the next couple of years. So lots of opportunities there. And for those discussions we've had in the past that haven't materialized, we need to resurrect them and see if the council leaders can make something of them. We've talked about libraries. We've talked about fire stations, and the list goes on. So hopefully each council can make progress and bring more unification to the two. And I'll stop there, Connie. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I'm going to ask Bruce for our next question for the candidates, and then we'll let the candidates raise their hand and we'll call you when you're ready to give an answer. So Bruce.
Okay, I'm going to combine two questions here. What is the most important issue your ward faces currently, and then also for the city? And then how do you want to address each of those issues?
Okay, I see. Actually, Nick, all of you are starting to put your hands up. That's great. I appreciate that. Nick, I think your hand went up first, so please go ahead.
So I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to combine 3 questions for Bruce, since I saw the question about the safety and the shootings. And to be honest, that's the issue that has been the most discussed when I've walked the ward over the last several weeks, is just the safety, because one of the areas that I walk all the time is an area where we've seen 2 shootings recently, or 2 shots fired rather than shootings. I think people interpret those terms differently. So the ward is very, very concerned about safety and very, very concerned about how we go forward. I think you can discuss, getting the right resources to the right place at the right time with training. That may be a way that some people want to talk about it, but the matter of fact thing is we need to support our police. We need to have our police available to interact very closely with our district attorney's office and really work through together a way to make this city keep it safe. The fact that Bloomington is, as a community, is safer than places like Decatur and Peoria, if you look at it, is because of a strong law enforcement that works together with the prosecutor's office and really makes it very, very comfortable for us to be, for our police to be effective. So we absolutely need that. I think it's an issue that's across the board. And as Sheila brought up before, I know we have candidates out there that have signed this petition online to defund the police by 50% by 2023. And I just feel like that is almost the definition of unconscious incompetence. We don't know what we don't know, and we don't know the impacts of a decision like that we would be making. So that would just be horribly irresponsible for folks to go in that direction.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Tom, you had your hand up next, I believe. Your microphone is still muted, Tom. See, it's a big club. Welcome.
Oh, sorry about that. Thank you. Well, I guess I'd like to maybe combine a couple of different topics as well. To me, I'd like to say one of the successes I've seen in Bloomington recently is the repurposing of the old Bloomington High School as a new Washington apartments for our senior residents. I think it's a shining example, of addressing infill, a place that's been empty for a long time, and it really is the kind of work the City Council wants to be doing. Something I think we need to address, though, at the city level. I think at the city level, the council needs to work with businesses to and community leaders to really accelerate economic growth in this post-COVID time. And I think we do that by reducing barriers to new ventures, and supporting the continued growth of local businesses through emphasizing some of the grants that the CDC has created. And I really feel like, and I think as the Chamber of Commerce reported earlier this year, that Bloomington's really kind of on the cusp of really moving forward. And I think this is a time for the City Council to work with our city leaders and community leaders to really make that happen. I'm also going to say in our ward, We have some issues that I think face that impact the day-to-day lives of some of the voters I've talked to, some of the families, and that really need addressing. For example, I talked to a family who tells me that their doors and windows rattle every time a semi comes rolling down Towanda Barnes. I heard from a senior voter who slipped and fell because the sidewalk in front of her house had heaved. It was uneven and needs to be repaired. I've also heard from a woman who has a hard time getting to her own garbage cans because the alley behind her house, the standing water drains so slowly, it makes it difficult to get out there. And you might say, well, none of those issues are really big, but there are major issues for voters' lives in this ward. And I think people want an alderman who will help them out, bring the right department into and make into these daily problems, and make sure that the problem gets on the list to be addressed. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom. Willie, I believe your hand up was next, please.
Yes. In Ward 3, as I walk around and talk to different individuals, and people actually have came to my door to talk with me. So I love being accessible and accountable to the people of Ward 3. But the things that I have heard about, number one, is COVID-19 pandemic, the impact that it has had on families, many trying to decide if they're going to feed their family, and then they still got medical bills. You have small businesses. They're talking about having to close their business down, lay off employees. That really genuinely hurts their heart to have to do something of that nature. When we actually, the city has funding, block money that has been made available, but part of the problem has been is that they've issued out like 38 to families, and then there's like over 100 that are waiting because of the paperwork lag. So being able to help speed up that process to provide more support and relief to families, direct relief to families and to small businesses, will be definitely a help to our community and to our ward. And in addition to that, kind of doing like as some of the other candidates did, I'm combining a few things. When we talk about COVID-19, you're looking at economic development. You know, how can we best meet the needs and still boost our economic development? And one way by doing that is what was mentioned, is to standardize incentives that we can offer. And that way you also leave no one behind, because that is definitely focused toward the businesses that are here for sustainability, and also for accessibility to them, where they can get service. And you can have targeted groups where you say minorities, women, veterans, people who are disabled, to make sure that companies would hire them and that they would be served, and they would be able to have a regular life and living, and have all the things that every person desires to have to live. Everyone wants to take care of their family, want a roof over their head. So you look at affordable housing and making sure people that are in rental, that people are held accountable who's taking care of their rental properties. And then finally, I want to address the issue where we talk about, I've talked to many of my people that are in Ward 3, they have talked about public safety. Public safety is essential. I am a firm believer in public safety. As a matter of fact, my husband, Charles, served on the Fire and Police Commission for over 10 years and was the chairperson. So that shows our commitment to public safety. And in addition to that, I will say this, is that because we've always done something a particular way, doesn't mean we always have to do it that way. Every day, our police officers and firefighters go out, they put their lives on the line, and I respect that. And because of that, we need to look at the work that they're doing, how we can alleviate some of that from them, where they can do their job by protecting and serving. And one area, especially during this pandemic, has been a rise in mental health issues and homelessness and social work issues and substance abuse. Well, if we look at the 911 calls, which we've talked about that a bit, and we redirected some of those calls over to the mental health facilities or social workers to address those that are nonviolent, then they can get served. There's a program in Oregon called Cahoots. I recommend everyone to pull that up and take a look at it. They actually did this, and they saved about 20% of those calls, and they saved millions of dollars. And the police and firefighters were able to do their job, what they were hired to do. And at the same time, they can serve and protect and take care of our community to make it where it's a place where we all want to live and thrive and be better. So instead of, we're not taking away from the police or the firefighters, you know what we're doing? We're enhancing, we're giving them more ability to go out and to take care and provide services. And at the same time, they can look at providing more training, more accountability, services to them to help them do their job and be more effective in doing that job. So those are the top issues that in Ward 3 that we have addressed. And we actually have had a listening circle this past Friday where we invited people from Ward 3 to talk. And you can go to my website at electhalbert.com, and we actually recorded, and you can hear the concerns coming, not just from my mouth, you can hear it from people from Ward 3, and you can see how we address those issues. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Willie. I believe Sheila had her hand up next. So Sheila, please come to the mic.
Yeah, hi. One thing you can count on me if I'm elected to the city council is that I will cast a wide net for input from all people within the ward and the leaders in various community service organizations that collaborate together to solve some of the problems that we have here in Bloomington. And, you know, when I think about the approach to problem solving, you can approach, you know, to treat symptoms, or you can approach to address the root cause for sustainable improvement. So I like to focus on the root cause. And I think as we look at opportunities such as economic development, the opportunity there is to enable then people to get better jobs, which will allow them to live better lives and to continue to make progress in their life's journey in a very positive way. I've spoken personally face-to-face with hundreds of people in Ward 3. I've been knocking on doors for several weeks, introducing myself. It was hard at first to ring those doorbells and step back 8 feet and make sure there's appropriate social distance and all of that sort of thing. But I would say that it's very difficult to generalize and synthesize down to one attribute when the people in Ward 3 present so differently. We have a very diverse ward. We have people of all stages of life, and those stages of life bring different preferences and different ways that they're seeing their local government and the opportunity to serve them. For some people, the burden of significant property tax, and granted, just a portion of that comes from the city of Bloomington, but seeing continually rising taxes is a concern. I had one family that had calculated down all of the various taxes that were on utilities and gasoline and that sort of thing. And they had calculated that it was costing them $500 more a month than what they had previously experienced years past in relative to another community that they had moved from, which I thought it was very interesting, you know, how detail oriented they were and how knowledgeable they were on that particular subject. There's certainly a lot of passion about the roads. I think Tom gave a great example of that. I've been led to see potholes at the end of streets that flood in a significant way. I've been told stories about people who chose to change what type of model of car they were driving as a result of the condition of the roads, especially around Hershey and some of the other areas of our community just throughout Ward 3. In addition, I'm hearing people at life stages with young families, they want amenities for their children. They want their children to be able to, as one resident described, see past video games in their room and look outward and see opportunities that this community provides to them to see a future for themselves and how they might go about living their lives in a way that will put them on that journey of improvement to live the best life they can.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you so much. Jim, not leaving you out, sir. So give a word as to your thoughts on important issues, both for the ward and for the city.
I've really enjoyed listening to all these comments, and I don't know where we started. I think we started at the interest of the ward and public safety. I think that's where we started, Bruce. But in any event, a lot of great comments. A couple things that I won't, I will not repeat what's been said, but a couple new thoughts that I have. I would like to see us, and I think this crosses all wards, I'd like us to bring back more energy into neighborhood associations and neighborhood watch. And I think as neighbors, we can do a lot more and help the police. When we think about it, we have one police department that's obviously downtown, and the distance they have to travel to some of our outlying boundary lines really presents a challenge with response time, whether that's police or public safety, fire, rescue squad, or what have you. So I think more emphasis on neighborhood associations, neighborhood watch could help us a lot. You know, the safety issue, if you've been in this community for a while, you know, it just moves around. It used to be in this neighborhood, and that neighborhood goes to another neighborhood. In the last 5 years, it's been, a lot of it has been between Hershey and Veterans, and between Clearwater and Route 9, Orchard Road, Riley Drive, Todd Drive. So it moves around, and we've got to be careful. We've got to build our neighborhoods. And let me throw out one more comment here. We keep talking about roads. The answer to the roads is we can't address this a year at a time. We have to have a sustained program. Perhaps, I'll throw out a number, perhaps $8 million a year. We've talked about this in the past. A sustained program that we're committed to rather than the yearly evaluation. The city does a tremendous job and has all of our streets graded. They know what condition they're in, whether it's downtown or wherever it is. And they've got a great track record down there of knowing where the worst are. And I would like us to see us develop a council-wide support of our engineering department and the financial support. Again, I'll throw out $8 million on a sustained basis. So a couple thoughts there.
Okay, Jim, thank you. I believe we have time for one more question. So Bruce, I'm challenging you to give a nice, pick a good one that each one of them can address.
Thank you. Many of the questions have been hit on a tangent before, so I apologize to anyone who doesn't get their question specifically answered. So I'll ask a question that is different than what's been asked. Aligning with groups such as People First Coalition raises red flags with some folks who believe that their opinions will not be heard if they differ from the coalition. How will you ensure that the opinions of the citizens will be listened to and give honest consideration in your decision making?
So it's not just a matter of in effect, you're really asking, Bruce, I'm just trying to clarify that we're truly asking how listening to all of the residents in a given ward is going to be accomplished. And you're using the point of reference of the People's Choice being a group that gives concern for this attendee, right? Is that what I'm understanding in the question?
Yeah, basically just diverse opinions. If they're all going to be given honest consideration.
Okay. Tom, you've got your hand up first, I believe. So please go ahead and give us an answer. Microphone, need to unmute.
Sorry, Connie, I'm slowing us down. I didn't.
Thank you, sir.
I guess I'd begin by saying, you know, throughout my career, I've always worked in diverse settings. I taught in urban high schools in Columbus, Ohio, when I was a young educator. While I was at ISU, I worked with, I was involved in outreach with Western Avenue Community Center. I've done work in Peoria. You know, and in each of these settings, I've worked to listen and learn from the community members what strengths and assets were already there, rather than come in and assume I know what people need. And I tried to find things I could build on in each of those settings. And as I was saying earlier, in my conversations with many voters across Ward 9, I've talked to a lot of people who challenged me, you know, and said, well, I'm worried that you think this, and I'm worried that you won't listen to this. And I'm a person who throughout my life has strived to treat people with civility and respect, regardless of whether I agree with them or not. I think that's so central to where we are now, where through a lot of sources in our world, people are polarized. People are afraid that expressing a diverse opinion will not even be allowed in a particular discussion or forum. And I believe that is absolutely not the case. I'm a person who listens to everyone. And I may not always agree with you, but I would never assume to know what everyone thinks. And in a community, I came here in the summer of 1999, and I've seen the diversity in this community grow, and I think that diversity is a strength. And as we think about our roles as members of City Council, I think it is absolutely critical that we learn how to listen to one another and build on the strengths that are part of this community across Bloomington, Normal, and McLean County. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. I believe Sheila, you had your hand up next, I think.
Yeah, maybe so. Hey, so I appreciate this question because I do think you have to get past a soundbite level to be able to understand even what we're really arguing about when there's the perception that there is divisiveness. And I think that as I've talked to people around this ward, this is a nonpartisan role. When I think about what the role of Bloomington City Council is, it's to run a $250 million budget, to deliver services to our people, to keep them safe, to be good stewards of the money that they give us in order to do that with, and to take care of this community. Some of the issues that have been talked about, you know, in prior conversations, you know, for example, around Section 8 housing, I really appreciated the question. I always leave room for myself. What do I not know? I mean, you've got to be aware of what you don't know from a self-awareness perspective, and then go out there and find out the facts, educate yourself on a topic. I had a wonderful conversation with somebody at the Bloomington Housing Authority to understand how they're funded, what the voucher program is even about. And it's not a role about city government so much as it is a federal based funding program. So learning about things like that, I think, are something that is absolutely implicit on every one of us, that we can go past a soundbite level, a headline that sounds great. It all sounds good, but at a practical level, how does it impact the ability to execute well and to deliver results on behalf of this community? I'm very, very committed to delivering results that align with what our constituents want. And as I've gone door to door, I am finding way more in common than I am in something that would loudly seem divisive. There's a tremendous amount of sense of community here, a pride in this community, neighbors taking care of neighbors. I'm inspired by that, and I look forward to serving that. My campaign motto is simply for Bloomington, because the interest group that I intend to serve is that of the collective residents that live here, so that we can do the best we can to grow and thrive as a community now and for generations to come.
Thank you, Sheila. I've tended to try to let Jim be the end game here, simply because he's not got a hand to raise. So, let me have Jim come in and at this point, Jim, and if you care to speak to the issue, you're there.
Sure, very good.
Go ahead.
You know, I think the city of Bloomington, what they want 9 people to listen, and we've got to listen to everybody. And the slogan that I've used on my emails, I've mentioned this before, but I developed this 15 years ago. We are one community. That's not a fancy political campaign slogan. That's who I am. That's who I've proven myself to be. If people ask about what is Jim's track record over the last 18 years, it is that I've been a listener, trying to search out all the different diverse viewpoints. I've lived in a lot of different wards. I've lived in a lot of different neighborhoods. I've worked with 30 plus council members. I've worked with 4 mayors, and the success that we achieve is the result of working together and not pigeonholing ourselves into our own viewpoints. We've got to listen to the rest of the council. We've got to listen to the community. I hope that people in the past have seen me at Mount Pisgah, or they've seen me in any other venue in the community, any other church, any other social agency. We've got to listen. We're one community, and we got to pull together, because we can't be isolated. So I think you just have to be open to what you don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Willie, I believe you have your hand up next, so please come to the mic.
Thank you. First, I want to say that most important, and I think I've heard this through everything everyone has said, is you have to listen. And I genuinely care about all people. It doesn't matter from what background, where you come from, what status. It's all about bringing everyone along with you and not leaving anyone behind. So when I say that, at the same time, I also recognize some of the realities that we have to deal with. I'm an African-American woman running for Bloomington City Council, not based on my heritage, but based on my abilities and my skills. At the same time, I look at our Bloomington City Council and I pause for a second. When was the last time that you had an African-American woman on city council? Do you know when that was? In the 1970s. Think about that for a moment. It's not because people are not qualified or have the skills, have the abilities, or care. So when we talk about collectiveness, you have to deal with the realities of where we are. We are in Bloomington. It's a wonderful place to live. My husband and I love this town. We have invested our lives. Our children grew up here, went to Bloomington High School, attended church, activities, cheerleader, you name it. My daughter became an attorney at law, a prosecuting attorney in Chicago. We have lived the dream, which is a beautiful dream. But when you deal with the realities, it's looking at every single pocket, every single person, and hearing what they're saying, what their concerns are, and having compassion to help bring about a difference, help change things. Look at our city government, for example. Look at our police department. Look at our fire department, and you look at where is the diversity that's represented in our community. So that's something that we can all say, yes, this is something that we need to approve. Let's all work together to help bring about a change. It doesn't mean that you're divisive. What it means is we bring about some of the challenges that we're faced with. And we say, as my motto is, together we can make a difference. And that's something I have had my entire life. I have lived that it's not of myself, but it's listening to this person and listen to another person. That's why I started the listening circle, to listen to the people of Ward 3 while I walked around talking to everyone to hear what their concerns about the roads. But as you look at the roads, you can't leave out the water pipe, the pipes where the water flows through. So as you're fixing the roads, let's look at our pipes. Right now, the city has done some things to work towards that. They have earmarked $7 million to help improve the roads. But also when I talk to people, I let them know, you know that there's an app, My Bloomington app. Go there, make your concerns known. Let them know that this pothole is over here. And then let your city council rep know so they can advocate for you, because I see us as advocates for the people in Ward 3, for our community, working together and knowing that no matter who gets elected, it's all about those individuals coming together and being able to listen and to learn and to make Bloomington Normal the best community that we can possibly be, bringing everybody to the table. People, we talk about the sidewalks that are uneven, you know, making sure ADA accessibility. I talked to 2 families on last Friday. If you go to my website, you'll hear them talk about the issues with their children, not having services provided for them because they're disabled. Making sure that they're not left behind, that we include them. Let's be an inclusive town. Making sure everybody's concerns are being addressed, that we genuinely care. We're not just saying words, but we're living that. One of the things that when I talked to someone the other day, they said, Willie, the one thing I can say about you, you help make things happen. And I let them know, I'm just a vehicle channeling the ideas, the information that people have that they have given to me. Those are the things I bring forth, and it don't go into a black hole, never to be seen again. When you make a situation known to me, it could be as simple. I had a lady call me and said that over in Airport Park, that they didn't have a porta potty. That sounds very minor, but guess what I did? I immediately contacted the city, and as of May 1, they're going to have one there. It's those things that let people know that you are engaged in them, that wherever their concerns might be, that we're going to address those, and they may not get everything that they ask for, but they know that they will get a response, that we will answer their call and handle and be accessible 24/24. They can call me. I've gotten calls. So I'm passionate about this, and I'm sorry if I went on a little long, but I can't help myself.
Well, I appreciate that passion, really. Thank you. But we do want to let Nick have a chance. He's the last one to address this issue. So please, Nick, come to the mic.
Thanks very much. And, you know, I'll try and keep it short given where we're at time wise. And, you know, I don't want to duplicate the comments that everybody said, is that we're all here to listen. Truly, if we want to do this job, we're here to be servant leaders and listen and go forward. I think the original question was much different than that, though. The original question was, how do we know that if people are in a coalition, that they will actually listen to opinions other than the agenda of the coalition as a whole? That was the question that was asked. And that's a question that I'm concerned about, as well as the people. I want each of us to collaborate and support and listen to every other council member and to every person in the community that brings issues forth. But we do have to not focus on letting an agenda of an outside organization or a coalition drive that input forward. We have to take the input as individuals and act appropriately to represent the city as best as possible. So we do have to be careful to work together, but not to just follow the agenda of an outside organization and a group that could be driven from outside the city.
All right, thank you, Nick. We're going to move into our final phase here. We're going to go through and kind of somewhat a reverse order, and I'm going to ask each of our candidates to hold to 1 minute and give share whatever final thoughts you would like to share as we close out this evening. And so in that spirit of the reverse, we're going to start with this Ward 3, and I'm going to ask Sheila to come to the mic, and your minute is on.
Thank you, Connie. You know, on April 6th, Bloomington is going to hold a city election, and it's very important. I've met so many people who don't know who their alderman is, who don't know the candidates running for city government in different roles that impact their lives in a profound way, financially and just their quality of life generally. And one thing that I can guarantee is, as a city council person for Ward 3, the people of Ward 3 will know who I am. I will be out there communicating with them regularly and listening to their concerns and advocating for policies that are important to them and at a price that we can afford. Bloomington needs council members who have experience solving complex problems. And when we think about our experiences and how they apply, it's a situational application for circumstances that haven't yet occurred. So when I think about the raw material that I will bring to this job, that it can be leveraged for problems that we haven't found yet, problems that we will find that will emerge here in the coming weeks, months, and years. It will be an honor to serve Ward 3 in this community that I'm very proud to call home. So thank you, Connie, for having us tonight.
Thank you, Sheila. And we move on to Willie.
Yes, I start with the unknown, People First Coalition. It is all about people. There's no particular group per se. It's people coming together, working, trying to make a difference, making sure people are first. That's all it is. They don't have any money, any backing. The main thing is each candidate has their own support system. We found common bound and common interest, and we support one another. That's the People First Coalition. I'm Willie Holton Halbert. I'm running for Bloomington City Council Ward 3. I give myself to you to represent you, to make sure no one is left behind, to be there for you. Go to electhalbert.com on my website. You can see all the different things and people that I've been involved with, and you can hear the people from Ward 3 talk about their challenges and how I have addressed those things. So April 6th, and you can vote, actually you can go vote now for early voting at the Bloomington Center for Performing Arts. We give ourselves to you, and thank you so much for allowing me to run to be your candidate for Ward 3.
Thank you, Willie. Now we're going to move on to Ward 9, and I'm going to ask Tom to come to the microphone and please share your final minute.
Okay. Well, I want to begin by thanking Connie for organizing tonight's debate. I'd also like to thank all the candidates in tonight's Zoom meeting for stepping up to run for a local office. It's a huge time commitment, and I appreciate everyone's efforts this evening. Everyone on this call tonight realizes the importance of local government, how it shapes our everyday lives. The opportunities we have depend on the decisions that the council makes. But our local government only works if the people that we elect, the city leaders we elect, are accessible, accountable, and people with integrity. I've learned through my reaching out that families in Ward 9 work hard, and they deserve an alderman who will work hard for them as well. Someone who will reach out, make connections, listen, someone who will speak up for fiscal responsibility when that time comes up. Someone who will represent Ward 9, yet look beyond the ward to do what's best for Bloomington and the larger community. Our voters in Ward 9 want someone with new energy to work hard to help Bloomington realize the promise that's ahead, because there is incredible promise ahead. I am that person, and I'm asking for your vote on or before April 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Now I'm going to ask Jim to come to the mic and share his final minute.
Thank you, Connie, and thank you again for getting this organized. We're learning a lot about each other, and that's great. So basically what it comes down to me is a love for the community. I've chosen to stay here. I've lived here all my life. I've gotten very involved in the community on the government side, the education side, the healthcare side. Anybody that knows my track record in 2 different wards for 18 years know how involved I get, how I roll up my sleeves, how I go to the meetings, how I listen, how I participate. And obviously I've got a voting record of 18 years. Again, it's cohesiveness. I'm a team player. We have to work together. We have citywide issues. I hope I can bring my experience, my knowledge, my institutional knowledge on May 1. As I said before, we're going to have the least experienced city council that we've had in more than 30 years. We need stability. We need people that understand the community. And I hope I can earn the vote of those in Ward 9. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And that brings us to last but not least, of course, Ward 5 candidate Nick Becker. Nick, please.
Thanks, Connie. So in closing, I want to reiterate something that I kind of said before about the importance of the ability to look at things through the lenses that other people look at things through. It's important to be able to have the perspective of our citizens and to see the perspective of the different types of businesses. And I really feel like I can bring that to the table with the many life experiences that I've had. And I also think that something Sheila said just a moment ago was really important. And that is, issues will change over time, but the experience that we bring to the table to deal with those new issues as they happen is critical. And we must pick candidates that bring that kind of experience dealing with complex problems of the scale that Bloomington deals with. Because if we don't, we'll end up with short-sighted decisions that really lead us down the wrong path. So I ask you to allow me to bring my experience to the table in support of all of the citizens of Bloomington, and especially those in Ward 5. Thank you very much.
I thank you all for attendance, and I thank you for our candidates for being here tonight. Good night, everyone, and hopefully you'll come back on Thursday. Take care.